Hi all, let's look at a very interesting game from the recent Altibox Norway tournament. This is in round 3. Magnus Carlsen playing against Levon Aronian. So this kicked off with e4 from Magnus, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, the Berlin defense, knight f6, white castles, knight takes e4, rook e1, knight d6. So is this going to be a draw? Can white actually get any advantage from this opening? We have bishop f1, knight takes, rook takes. Now the reason I say that, if we look structurally, there's only one shared file, and statistically, yeah, there's a lot of draws in this variation. It's not exactly unbalanced. So we have d4, bishop f6, rook e1, knight f5, and usually here players with white plays c3. This is pretty drawish. For example, d5 is logical, bishop f4. This has all been seen before, c6, knight e2. But you can see it looks as though there's no real worries for black here. Now, Magnus plays a very interesting move, I thought, in this position. He actually plays the move d5, which maybe tries for some sort of space advantage, but it's weakening the dart squares. There is a price to be paid here. We see rook e8 and an exchange of rooks. Now queen d3, that knight is protected with d6. Knight d2, bishop g5. Yeah, if the knight had gone to c3, that's interesting. It would have stopped bishop g5, but Magnus wasn't too concerned about the bishop g5 possibility. So this is quite interesting that black is wanting to get rid of white's dart square bishop to weaken these dart squares perhaps a little bit more. We have now knight f3 and the exchange of dart square bishops. Bishop d7. But white still has this space advantage. What is black actually doing with the dart squares here? Rook e1, chasing the queen off for a moment. e8, queen c4. There is a little bit of pressure in this position being exerted on black. We have the move g6, h3. The knight goes back to g7. Rook e3, and it's almost as if there's a kind of bind on the position, with white actually having a firmer control, it seems, of that e file, more comfortable, and able to build up a little bit of pressure now with rook e3. The rook can sometimes switch maybe to attack on the queen side, or even use the f3 or g3 square. Seems pointless, but the f3 square in particular might be useful to target things on the f file. We have a5, a4, knight e8, queen d4. Now here, it's not possible for black to challenge this queen in the center. If queen f6, can you see what white could play in this position, which would end the game? If I give you 5 seconds. Okay, rook takes e8 check would be winning the queen here, or just losing everything after queen takes, rook takes. So it's a bit of a bind. We have knight g7, so all of a sudden it's actually black on the dart squares, which seems a bit vulnerable. The knight is kept out of f5 with the move g4 here. We have c6, c4. So from what seems to be a nothing opening, this d5 so far has paid dividends. White has got something to work with, you could say here, to nurture an advantage. Knight g7. Queen f4, so eyeing d6 and also f7. King g7, rook b3, teasing black on the queen side, putting pressure on b7. Rook b8. Now knight g5, hitting f7. And black is having some difficulties here. Probably one of the better moves is queen f6. It's less committal than what was played in this position. For example, queen d2, h6. But still, white stands actually with a nice advantage here. In the game, we have the move knight f6, and the knight is prone to be pinned here because of an upcoming rook f3 to that f7 pawn. We see the move rook f3 and h6 trying to kick the knight, hoping this will be fine after knight e4 to just be able to take now. So that maybe was with the expectation of queen takes e4. But guess what Magnus Carlsen played in this position, if I give you 5 seconds, starting from now. Okay, he didn't play queen takes e4, which after c5 is kind of even actually. He actually played queen takes f7 check, believe it or not. After king h8, what does white play here? If I give you 5 seconds. Okay. Queen takes g6. It's devastating. Black actually resigned here. You can see that the king's defensive pawns are being stripped away, and concretely, for example, knight g5, queen takes h6 check, and rook f6 is pretty devastating. The king's got no real defense here. It's going to be losing material and getting mated, as an example. And if we look at this position of queen g5, well, I can just take on e4 and has netted material, a decisive material advantage. The other possibility, let's see, rook e8, sorry, after queen takes g6, knight g5. Oh, I think we've covered things actually. Sorry, after queen takes g6. Anyway, the game ended here. So I thought it was quite interesting from the point of view of d5. It did actually create a sort of imbalance. You know, if you look at Silman's imbalance theory, you know that players in the openings try and create imbalances. It was a bit of a late try at an imbalance, avoiding very, very drawish positions in the opening. So that d5 caught my attention for this game. So I'll be looking at some other Magnus Carlsen games soon from the Altibox Norway. Better late than never. I hope you'll find that's okay to be covering it a bit later. And you can actually see this analysis with indentation, etc. If you visit Chess World and the Master Collection YouTube order, you'll see I'm preparing the analysis for these games. I'll give you a link in the comments and in the description to the indented analysis of this game if you want to check it out. You might want to check the video out again with the analysis on the side. Okay, hope you got something from it. Thanks very much.